Could famous stars be connected to dark forces beyond our understanding? What if some of the most shocking celebrity deaths weren't just tragic accidents but something more sinister? The entertainment world has lost many icons over the years, but some departures seem shrouded in mystery that goes beyond the ordinary. Number 13. Kurt Cobain. Was Kurt Cobain's death really just a suicide? The Nirvana frontman was found dead in his Seattle home in April 1994, but fans have never stopped questioning what really happened. Cobain had risen to fame as the voice of Generation the 10th, his raw lyrics and haunting melodies capturing the angst of millions. What many casual fans don't know is that Cobain had a documented fascination with the occult throughout his life. Friends close to the musician revealed that in his final months, Cobain had been exploring ancient mystical texts and had developed an interest in ritualistic practices from various cultures. His journals, published years after his death, contained sketches of symbols commonly associated with various occult traditions. Some pages featured pentagrams and other esoteric imagery interspersed between his song lyrics and personal thoughts. One ex-bandmate who wished to remain anonymous claimed that Cobain had been dabbling in things he didn't fully understand in the weeks before his death. Kurt was always searching for something deeper, something that could explain the pain he felt, the source revealed. He started collecting these old books on magic and would stay up all night reading them. The Seattle house where Cobain spent his final days reportedly had strange symbols drawn on the walls of his private room. These were quickly painted over after his death, according to a maintenance worker who was brought in to prepare the property for sale. The worker described them as not typical rock star stuff. These were old, like something you'd see in those medieval witchcraft books. Conspiracy theorists have long pointed to the strange circumstances surrounding the discovery of his body and his suicide note, which some handwriting experts have questioned. Was there something more mystical at play in the death of one of rock's most tortured souls? We may never know. Number 12. Marilyn Monroe. What secrets did Marilyn Monroe take to her grave? The blonde bombshell's sudden death in 1962 shocked the world, but the circumstances remain mysterious nearly 6 decades later. While officially ruled a probable suicide by barbiturate overdose, many believe there was more to her story, including connections to otherworldly forces. Few fans know that Monroe was deeply interested in spiritual practices and the supernatural. According to close friends, she regularly consulted psychics and astrologers throughout her career. One of her trusted psychic advisors reportedly warned her about dark energies surrounding her just weeks before her death. Monroe's former housekeeper revealed in a rarely cited interview that the actress had been conducting what appeared to be séances in her home in the months before her passing. She would sit in a dark room with candles all around trying to communicate with someone. She never told me who, the housekeeper stated. Sometimes I would hear her talking to empty rooms, having full conversations with someone who wasn't there. Perhaps most unsettling were the reports from neighbors who claimed to hear strange chanting from her Brentwood home in the middle of the night. One neighbor described rhythmic sounds, not like normal speech, coming from the property on multiple occasions. What adds another layer of mystery is that Monroe had apparently been researching ancient goddess worship and female-centered spirituality. Books on these topics were found in her personal library after her death. Some theorists believe she may have been attempting to tap into divine feminine power through ritualistic practices unknown to her Hollywood circle. The infamous Red Diary that disappeared after her death reportedly contained not just details about her relationships with powerful men, but also notes about her spiritual explorations and supernatural experiences. Former Detective Jack Clemens, who was first on the scene after her body was discovered, always maintained that the death scene appeared staged and that key items were removed before authorities arrived. Was Monroe's fascination with the otherworldly connected to her untimely demise? Did she know something or connect with something that put her in danger? The truth remains as elusive as Marilyn herself. Number 11. Heath Ledger. Did Heath Ledger's portrayal of the Joker invite something sinister into his life? When the talented Australian actor was found dead in his Manhattan apartment in January 2008, many immediately connected his passing to the disturbing role he had recently completed filming. The official cause was an accidental overdose of prescription medications, but some believe darker forces were at work. Ledger had completely immersed himself in the character of the Joker for Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight, isolating himself in a hotel room for weeks to develop the character's disturbing mannerisms and psychology. According to those close to the production, Ledger kept a diary during this period that he filled with thoughts and images that he felt captured the Joker's essence. This diary, glimpsed briefly in a documentary after his death, contained disturbing imagery and the words "bye-bye" written on the final page. What fewer people know is that Ledger had reportedly begun experiencing paranormal phenomena during and after the filming. A set designer from the movie revealed anonymously that Ledger had spoken about feeling watched while in costume and described instances where he felt not alone in his trailer, despite no one else being present. A close friend later revealed that Ledger had called him in distress several times in the weeks before his death, describing vivid nightmares and a persistent feeling that something had followed him home from the set. The friend initially assumed these were the effects of sleep deprivation and stress, but later questioned whether something more supernatural had occurred. He told me he would wake up at exactly 3:33 a.m. almost every night, feeling a presence in his room, the friend stated. Anyone familiar with the occult knows that's significant. It's considered a mockery of the Holy Trinity in some beliefs, the inverse of Christ's death hour. Adding to the mystery, 3 different crew members from The Dark Knight reported strange electrical malfunctions whenever Ledger was in full Joker makeup on set. Lights would flicker, equipment would fail, and in one particularly eerie instance, a camera pointed at Ledger allegedly captured strange, shadowy figures that couldn't be explained by the production team. After his death, the Manhattan apartment where Ledger spent his final days was reportedly difficult to rent, with several potential tenants claiming they felt uncomfortable or watched in the space. One described feeling a heaviness, like someone was still there. Was Heath Ledger's dedication to portraying chaos and madness an invitation to forces beyond our understanding? Did his deep dive into darkness open a door that couldn't be closed? The questions linger long after the credits have rolled. Number 10. Whitney Houston. How did one of music's greatest voices end up face down in a hotel bathtub? Whitney Houston's 2012 death shocked fans worldwide, officially attributed to drowning with heart disease and cocaine use as contributing factors. Yet whispers of supernatural elements have persisted in the years since her passing. What many don't know is that Houston had become increasingly spiritual, and some would say superstitious, in her final years. According to several members of her entourage, she had developed an intense interest in prophetic visions and regularly consulted with spiritual advisors who practiced traditions blending Christianity with other mystical beliefs. One of Houston's former assistants revealed that the singer believed she was being followed by an entity she called the Demon. In the weeks leading to her death, Houston reportedly told several people that she felt marked and that something was trying to take her down. Initially, those close to her attributed these statements to drug-induced paranoia, but some later questioned if she had sensed something others couldn't perceive. Whitney would wake up terrified, saying she had seen a dark figure standing at the foot of her bed, the assistant claimed. This happened so often that she began sleeping with the lights on and would ask people to stay in the room with her. Perhaps most unsettling were Houston's own words during her last interview, where she cryptically stated, "I'm going to go see Jesus. I want to see Jesus." Some interpreted this as a premonition of her own death, while others with knowledge of occult beliefs suggest it could have been related to certain rituals involving spiritual journeys or transitions. The hotel room where Houston died reportedly experienced strange phenomena afterward. Staff members at the Beverly Hilton claimed electronic devices would malfunction in that particular room, and guests often requested room changes, describing uncomfortable feelings and the sensation of being watched. Adding another layer to the mystery, Houston's daughter Bobby Christina Brown died 3 years later in circumstances eerily similar to her mother, found unconscious in a bathtub. Before her death, Bobby Christina had told friends she frequently communicated with her mother's spirit and felt her presence. Some occult experts have pointed to this as a potential case of what they call spiritual attachment, where an entity or energy can affect multiple family members. Was Whitney's troubled final chapter influenced by forces beyond the physical world? Did she sense something coming for her that others couldn't see? The final notes of her story remain as haunting as her unforgettable voice. Number 9. Jimi Hendrix. Was Jimi Hendrix's revolutionary guitar playing inspired by supernatural sources? The iconic musician's death in 1970 at age 27 officially resulted from asphyxiation after taking barbiturates, but the circumstances have kept conspiracy theorists and occult researchers talking for decades. What many casual fans don't realize is that Hendrix frequently spoke about mystical experiences throughout his career. He often claimed that his music came to him through dreams and visions. "The music I hear in my mind, man, it's from somewhere else," he once told a reporter. "I'm just the channel, I'm just the messenger." According to bandmates and close friends, Hendrix was deeply interested in extraterrestrial life and believed he had been visited by beings from other worlds. His song Purple Haze was allegedly inspired by one such encounter. A former girlfriend revealed that Hendrix would sometimes wake in the middle of the night to frantically write down melodies he claimed were being transmitted to him from the other side. More intriguingly, several sources close to the musician reported that Hendrix had been exploring various occult practices in the months leading up to his death. One roadie who worked with Hendrix during his final tour claimed to have seen strange symbols drawn in notebooks and occult literature among the guitarist's possessions. Jimi was looking for something beyond what this world could give him, the roadie stated. He talked about vibrations and frequencies in ways that went beyond music theory. It was like he was trying to tap into something ancient and powerful. Monica Dannemann, who was with Hendrix during his final hours, later wrote about his interest in what she called the science of the cosmic language. She claimed Hendrix believed certain combinations of notes could open portals to other dimensions of consciousness. What's particularly eerie is that, according to Dannemann, Hendrix had predicted the exact age at which he would die several years earlier. After his death, numerous musicians reported strange experiences when using instruments formerly owned by Hendrix. One guitarist who purchased one of Hendrix's old Stratocasters claimed he would hear melodies playing on the unplugged guitar late at night. Another reported that the guitar would sometimes go dramatically out of tune during attempts to play Hendrix's most experimental compositions. Adding to the mystique, Hendrix died as part of what would later be called the 27 Club, a strange pattern of influential musicians dying at that exact age. Occult researchers have pointed out that the number 27 has significance in numerology and certain magical traditions, representing a critical transition point in human energy. Did Hendrix's exploration of consciousness and cosmic forces somehow contribute to his early demise? Was his supernatural talent actually connected to supernatural sources? The mystery continues to resonate like feedback from one of his legendary performances. Number 8. Bruce Lee. Was martial arts icon Bruce Lee's sudden death the result of an ancient curse? When Lee died unexpectedly in 1973 at just 32 years old, the official cause was cerebral edema, supposedly from an allergic reaction to medication. However, many in Hong Kong immediately began whispering about supernatural explanations. Few Western fans know that Lee's family had a complex relationship with traditional Chinese spiritual beliefs. According to close family friends, Lee's mother had consulted a fortune teller before his birth who warned that her son would live a short but impactful life. This prophecy apparently troubled Lee throughout his adult years. What adds credence to supernatural theories was Lee's involvement with a property that many locals considered haunted. During the filming of Game of Death, completed posthumously, Lee had purchased a house in Kowloon that had been the site of several unexplained deaths. Local legends claim the land was built on an ancient burial ground. Despite warnings from Hong Kong crew members, Lee dismissed these concerns as superstition. Bruce started having very vivid nightmares after moving into that house, revealed a former assistant who worked closely with the star. He would wake up feeling like something was sitting on his chest, making it hard to breathe, exactly how he died. Perhaps most unsettling were the reports from the set of Enter the Dragon. Multiple crew members claimed to witness Lee in deep conversation with someone no one else could see during breaks in filming. When questioned, Lee allegedly smiled and said he was consulting with his Sifu teacher, despite his primary martial arts teacher having died years earlier. Adding to the mystery, several objects from Lee's personal collection exhibited strange properties after his death. A pair of nunchaku he frequently used would reportedly make sounds as if being handled when left alone in display cases. A traditional Chinese sword hanging in his study would occasionally be found on the floor in the morning, despite being securely mounted. The supernatural elements surrounding Lee's death gained further credibility when his son Brandon Lee died under mysterious circumstances while filming The Crow in 1993. The eerie similarities between father and son both dying during the making of films, both in strange accidents that shouldn't have been fatal, led many in Hong Kong's spiritual community to speak openly about a family curse. One elderly Feng Shui master who had visited Lee's home shortly before his death later claimed he had sensed a hungry ghost attachment that was gradually draining Lee's life force. He had allegedly warned Lee to perform specific cleansing rituals, advice the martial artist apparently never followed. Was Bruce Lee's revolutionary physical prowess and philosophical wisdom achieved at a spiritual price? Did ancient forces resent his revealing of closely guarded martial arts secrets to the Western world? The dragon may have ascended, but the questions surrounding his departure remain earthbound. Number 7. Bob Marley. Did Bob Marley's defiance of powerful political interests lead to his encounter with dark magic? When the reggae legend died from cancer in 1981 at just 36, many of his supporters believed there was more to the story than medical explanations could provide. What's not widely discussed outside of Jamaica is that Marley was deeply immersed in Rastafarian spiritual practices, which include a sophisticated understanding of what outsiders might call magic. According to close friends, Marley was well aware of Obia, traditional Jamaican folk magic, and took numerous precautions to protect himself from spiritual attacks. The mystery begins with a gift Marley received after a politically charged concert in 1976. A messenger delivered a pair of boots to the musician, and when Marley tried them on, he reportedly felt a sharp pain in his toe. Upon inspection, a copper wire was found embedded in the boot. While Western medicine would later diagnose the resulting wound as cancer, many Jamaicans recognized this as a classic Obia curse technique. Bob knew immediately what had happened, revealed one of his longtime Wailers bandmates years later. He said to me, "Dem try fi Obia me," and he was very serious. He knew who had sent it and why, but wouldn't speak their names. Adding to the supernatural dimension were the reports from Marley's inner circle about strange occurrences in his final years. Security personnel at his Hope Road compound in Kingston described shadowy figures that would appear and disappear around the property perimeter. House staff reported hearing drums playing when no one was there, a phenomenon that Marley himself acknowledged experiencing. Neville Garrick, Marley's art director and close friend, later revealed that Bob had consulted with several spiritual leaders after discovering the wire in his boot. These advisors allegedly performed cleansing rituals and provided protective amulets, but warned that the curse had already taken hold and would be difficult to reverse completely. What makes the supernatural explanation compelling to many Jamaicans is the specific nature of Marley's cancer. It began in his toe, exactly where the wire had pierced him, before spreading throughout his body. Traditional Obia curses are said to work precisely this way, starting at the point of contact before consuming the entire person. Perhaps most disturbing were the dreams Marley reported in his final months. According to his wife Rita, he would wake up claiming to have seen a figure in a top hat and tails, imagery associated with Baron Samedi, a powerful spirit in Haitian Vodou who guards the crossroads between life and death. These visions apparently began after Marley refused treatment options that aligned with his Rastafarian beliefs. "He told me, 'I see the man waiting for me now,'" Rita recounted in a rare interview. He wasn't afraid, though. Bob believed everything happens according to Jah's plan. Was Marley's premature death the result of spiritual warfare related to his outspoken political stances? Did his music's power to unite people across divides make him a target of those who preferred Jamaica divided? The mystery echoes like the bass line in one of his timeless tracks. Number 6. Tupac Shakur. Was Tupac's murder arranged by forces beyond the typical hip-hop rivalries? When the influential rapper was shot in Las Vegas in 1996, most assumed it was the tragic culmination of the East Coast-West Coast feud. Yet persistent rumors of occult connections have circulated in the decades since his death. What many fans don't realize is that Tupac had been deeply interested in esoteric spirituality, particularly Egyptian mysticism. His stage name Machiavelli was not just a reference to the Italian philosopher, but had numerological significance in certain mystical traditions. Friends close to the rapper revealed he had been studying ancient texts in the months before his death and had become increasingly concerned about symbolic messages he believed were being sent to him. Pac would talk about the eyes watching him that nobody else could see, said one former security team member. At first, we thought it was paranoia from smoking too much, but he was deadly serious about it. He'd point out certain symbols in magazines or on buildings and say they were messages meant for him. Perhaps most intriguing were the numerous predictive elements in Tupac's work. His album The Don Killuminati, The 7-Day Theory, released posthumously, features him crucified on the cover. He had taken the Machiavelli persona and staged his own symbolic death before his actual murder. The album contains lyrics that seem to forecast his own passing in eerie detail. Adding to the supernatural dimension, several people in Tupac's inner circle reported strange phenomena in the weeks leading up to his death. Studio engineers claimed recording equipment would malfunction specifically during Tupac's most politically charged verses. One longtime friend described seeing a shadow person following the rapper during his final Las Vegas trip. It wasn't just a shadow, it moved independently like it was stalking him, the friend stated. Pac saw it too, he told me. That's Death Man, been seeing him for weeks now. More disturbing still were the reports from witnesses who claimed to have seen unusual gatherings at locations Tupac had recently visited. One nightclub employee in Los Angeles described finding strange symbols drawn in what looked like blood in a VIP room Tupac had used the night before. The symbols were allegedly consistent with those used in certain blood magic traditions. Some researchers have pointed to Tupac's final music video, To Live and Die in LA, noting the abundant symbolic imagery that appears throughout. Occult researchers have identified specific frames containing signs and symbols associated with ancient mystery schools and secret societies. The timing of his death, 7 months after the death of rival Notorious B.I.G., has significance in numerology. The number 7 appears repeatedly in circumstances surrounding both deaths, leading some to suggest their murders were ritualistic in nature rather than simply gang-related. Was Tupac's outspoken criticism of power structures and his growing influence making him a target for forces operating beyond the visible world? Did his exploration of esoteric knowledge lead him too close to truths someone wanted kept hidden? The conspiracy theories continue to thrive, much like his musical legacy. Number 5. Princess Diana. Was the people's princess eliminated because she knew too much? Princess Diana's tragic death in a Paris tunnel in 1997 officially resulted from a car accident while fleeing paparazzi, but alternative explanations have never ceased circulating, some involving distinctly supernatural elements. What's rarely discussed in mainstream accounts is Diana's significant interest in mysticism and alternative spirituality in her final years. After separating from Prince Charles, Diana began consulting with various psychics and spiritual advisors. According to those in her inner circle, she had received several warnings about her safety in the months before her death. One of Diana's former private secretaries revealed that the princess had been told by a trusted psychic to beware of tunnels less than 3 months before the fatal crash. She took it seriously enough that she mentioned it to several people, the secretary stated. She specifically avoided the tunnels in London when possible after that reading. Perhaps most unsettling were Diana's own words in a letter she wrote to her former butler Paul Burrell just 10 months before her death. In this now famous note, she expressed fear that someone was planning an accident in my car, brake failure, and serious head injury. The specificity of this prediction has led many to wonder if Diana had accessed information through supernatural means. Adding to the mystery, multiple staff members at properties Diana frequented reported strange occurrences before and after her death. One security guard at Kensington Palace claimed to have seen a lady in white walking the corridors late at night in areas Diana used to frequent. Others reported inexplicable cold spots and the smell of Diana's signature perfume appearing and disappearing in empty rooms. Diana's interest in ancient Egyptian symbolism has also fueled supernatural theories. Her final night was spent at the Ritz Hotel in Paris, owned by Mohammed Al-Fayed, father of her companion Dodi. The hotel sits above a former site believed by some historians to have been used for ancient goddess worship. More strikingly, Diana died directly across from the Flamme de la Liberté monument, which sits atop a tunnel that passes over an ancient Merovingian sacrificial site. The location of her death is saturated with symbolic meaning, explained one historian specializing in occult geography. That specific tunnel and the monument marking it have connections to Diana, the Roman goddess of the hunt, Princess Diana's namesake. The coincidence is too perfect. In the years following her death, numerous electronic voice phenomena (EVP) researchers have claimed to capture messages from Diana during sessions at locations she frequented. One such recording, captured at Althorpe, her childhood home and burial site, allegedly features a voice saying, "The crash was not what you think," amid the static. Diana's documented charitable work with organizations researching supernatural phenomena has been largely scrubbed from official biographies. According to sources close to her charitable foundation, Diana had funded several studies into near-death experiences and communication with the deceased in the year before her death. Was Diana's growing spiritual awareness bringing her dangerously close to insights about power structures dating back centuries? Did her intuitive gifts make her a threat to institutions relying on secrecy? The flowers may have faded from her memorial, but the questions bloom perennially. Number 4. Brittany Murphy. Did something sinister follow Brittany Murphy home? When the talented actress died suddenly in 2009 at age 32, the official cause was pneumonia complicated by anemia and multiple drug intoxication. What made her death even more perplexing was that her husband Simon Monjack died just 5 months later in the same house, with strikingly similar symptoms. What few people know is that Murphy had reportedly become convinced her home was haunted in the months before her death. According to close friends, the actress had experienced numerous unexplained phenomena in the Hollywood Hills house she purchased from pop star Britney Spears. Murphy would reportedly wake in the middle of the night, claiming to see shadowy figures standing at the foot of her bed. Britney called me in tears several times about the house, revealed one longtime friend who wished to remain anonymous. She said she would hear whispering coming from empty rooms and that doors would open and close by themselves. She was terrified. The property itself had a troubled history before Murphy moved in. Britney Spears had allegedly experienced similar disturbing events while living there, which reportedly contributed to her decision to sell. Construction workers who had renovated the property years earlier spoke of strange accidents, unexplained equipment failures, and an overwhelming sense of being watched while working in certain rooms. What adds another layer to the mystery is that Murphy had begun exploring spiritual cleansing rituals to rid the house of what she believed were negative energies. Multiple sources confirmed that she had consulted with spiritual advisors and had performed smudging ceremonies with sage throughout the property. One housekeeper reported finding strange symbols drawn in salt on the floors of closets. Murphy's husband Simon became increasingly paranoid about the house as well. According to visitors, he had installed numerous surveillance cameras throughout the property, not just for security, but to capture evidence of what he called the things moving in the shadows. After Murphy's death, Monjack reportedly told friends that he would see his deceased wife walking through the house at night. The paramedics who responded to both death scenes later commented on the unusual atmosphere of the home. One first responder described feeling a heaviness like walking through water when entering the master bedroom. Another mentioned that electronic equipment, including their radios, experienced interference inside the property. Adding to the eerie circumstances, the house remained unsold for years after the deaths despite significant price reductions. Multiple potential buyers reported feeling uncomfortable during viewings, with some refusing to enter certain rooms. One real estate agent quit the listing entirely after experiencing what she described as a hand grabbing my ankle while showing the empty master bathroom to clients. Mold was eventually discovered in the house and cited as a possible contributor to the matching respiratory issues that affected both Murphy and Monjack. However, testing revealed the mold was not of a type typically associated with severe illness. Some paranormal researchers have suggested that certain mold species can act as conduits for supernatural activity, creating environments where entities can more easily manifest. There's a reason haunted houses in stories often have that damp, moldy smell, explained one paranormal investigator who later examined the property. It's not just a literary device, there's a documented correlation between certain types of fungal growth and reported paranormal phenomena. Was something dark lurking in Brittany Murphy's dream home? Did the house claim not just one life but two through supernatural means? The case remains as haunting as the vacant Hollywood Hills property itself. Number 3. Michael Jackson. Was the king of pop involved with forces beyond our understanding? Michael Jackson's death in 2009 shocked the world, officially attributed to a propofol overdose administered by his doctor. Yet the superstar's life and death have long been surrounded by whispers of occult connections and supernatural experiences. What many casual fans don't realize is that Jackson had a documented fascination with the esoteric and supernatural throughout his life. Former staff members from his Neverland Ranch revealed that Jackson maintained an extensive library of books on magic, witchcraft, and ancient mystical traditions. One former security guard claimed that an entire wing of the property was dedicated to what Jackson called his spiritual research. Michael believed he could communicate with spirits through certain rituals, stated a former personal assistant who worked closely with the star. He would often spend entire nights in a special room he had constructed according to specific geometric principles. No staff were allowed in during these times. Perhaps most intriguing were Jackson's own statements about supernatural guidance influencing his creative process. In several interviews, he described waking up with entire songs complete in his mind, claiming they had been given to him during sleep. "The music comes through me but not from me," he once stated, explaining that he felt more like a vessel than a creator during his most productive periods. Adding to the mystical dimension, multiple witnesses reported seeing Jackson engaged in unusual rituals before performances. One backup dancer from the Dangerous tour described Jackson drawing specific symbols on the floor of his dressing room and standing in the center while reciting something in a language the dancer didn't recognize. "It wasn't like anything I'd heard before," the dancer recalled. After he finished, he seemed to go into an almost trance-like state before heading to the stage. His performances on those nights were particularly intense. It was like watching someone possessed by the music. The circumstances of Jackson's death have also fueled supernatural theories. His Dr. Conrad Murray later described Jackson as being in an almost trance-like state in his final hours, murmuring about figures only he could see in the corners of the room. Murray, a man of science, was sufficiently disturbed by these descriptions that he mentioned them specifically during interviews after his release from prison. More unsettling still were the reports from Jackson's children about strange phenomena in their home after his death. Paris Jackson has spoken openly about sensing her father's presence and receiving signs she believes come from him. Security personnel at the family's residence documented unexplained footsteps, doors opening and closing on their own, and the sound of Jackson's distinctive voice humming melodies in empty rooms. Paranormal researchers have pointed to Jackson's purchase of a vast catalog of Beatles music as having potential occult significance. The specific songs he acquired reportedly include those with connections to what some consider magical traditions. His interest in specific historical figures associated with ceremonial magic, including some items he collected at auction, has added fuel to these theories. Michael was exploring ancient knowledge about manipulating energy and consciousness, claimed one former spiritual advisor who worked with the star. He believed certain sound frequencies could alter reality and open doorways between worlds. What people called his eccentricity was actually a sophisticated understanding of principles most people never encounter. Was Michael Jackson's otherworldly talent and presence the result of connections to forces beyond the material world? Did his exploration of consciousness and reality lead him into realms from which there was no easy return? The moonwalk may have looked like magic, but was there actual magic behind the moonwalk? Number 2, Aaliyah. Did dark premonitions haunt Aaliyah before her tragic plane crash? When the rising R&B star died in 2001 at just 22 years old, the music world lost a unique talent. The official investigation blamed overloading of the small aircraft she had boarded after filming a music video in the Bahamas, but rumors of supernatural elements have persisted for decades. What few fans know is that Aaliyah had reportedly expressed serious reservations about boarding the flight, telling crew members she had experienced disturbing dreams about flying in the days leading up to the fatal trip. According to members of her entourage who survived by taking later flights, Aaliyah had described dreaming about rising into the air and not being able to return to the ground. She told us she'd been having the same nightmare for 3 nights straight, one backup dancer later revealed. She said she could feel herself floating away and people on the ground were getting smaller and smaller. She was really shaken by it. Adding to the supernatural dimension were reports from the music video shoot for Rock the Boat, which became her final project. Multiple crew members described unexplainable technical difficulties that plagued the production, with equipment failing specifically during Aaliyah's scenes. The director later mentioned that several completed footage reels were found inexplicably blank when reviewed, something technically difficult to explain. Perhaps most unsettling was Aaliyah's documented interest in Egyptian mysticism, which influenced both her music and personal aesthetic. Her name itself means highest, most exalted one in Arabic, and she frequently incorporated ancient Egyptian symbols into her work. Her final album featured imagery connected to the Egyptian goddess Aset, Isis, who is associated with death and rebirth. The plane crash occurred shortly after Aaliyah had completed work on the film Queen of the Damned, in which she portrayed an ancient vampire. Multiple cast members later spoke about unusual occurrences on the set, including unexplained cold spots that would form specifically around Aaliyah during certain scenes involving supernatural elements. There were times when the temperature would drop 20 degrees just in the small area where she was standing, one crew member stated. Equipment would malfunction, lights would flicker. The special effects team initially thought someone was playing pranks, but they couldn't find any explanation. Adding another layer to the mystery, several people close to Aaliyah reported that she had begun collecting ancient protective amulets in the months before her death. A jewelry designer who worked with her revealed that the singer had commissioned several pieces based on Egyptian protective symbols, specifically those associated with safe travel and protection from malevolent spirits. The location of her crash off the coast of the Bahamas has significance in certain mystical traditions. The area has long been associated with unexplained phenomena, from the mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle to local legends about water spirits that claim travelers. Local fishermen reported seeing unusual lights over the water the night of the crash. In the years following her death, fans have reported numerous instances of what they believe to be contact from Aaliyah's spirit. Studio engineers working with her unreleased recordings have described inexplicable voices appearing on tracks when no one was singing, and several artists who recorded posthumous duets with her samples described sensing her presence in the studio. Was Aaliyah's tragic end somehow foretold in her dreams and premonitions? Did her exploration of ancient spiritual traditions somehow connect her to forces beyond our understanding? Like the haunting quality of her voice, some questions linger in the air without resolution. Number 1. Elvis Presley. Could the King's death be connected to forces hidden from public view? When Elvis Presley was found dead in his bathroom at Graceland in 1977, the official cause was heart failure, but decades later, questions about supernatural elements surrounding his death continue to surface. What many fans don't know is that Elvis had a lifelong fascination with spirituality and the supernatural that went far beyond his public persona. According to members of his inner circle, the Memphis Flash spent countless hours studying esoteric texts and mystical traditions. His private library at Graceland contained hundreds of books on subjects ranging from ancient religions to metaphysics and paranormal phenomena. Elvis believed he had a spiritual mission beyond his music, revealed a former member of the Memphis Mafia who spent years at the singer's side. He would often tell us he felt guided by forces beyond this world, especially during his most difficult times. Perhaps most intriguing were Elvis's reported experiences with supernatural phenomena throughout his life. Multiple witnesses described instances where Elvis appeared to demonstrate unusual abilities, particularly during times of heightened emotional states. One frequently repeated story involves Elvis seemingly stopping a small rain shower during an outdoor gathering at Graceland simply by raising his hands and focusing intensely on the sky. Adding to the mystery were the strange occurrences reported at Graceland in the days leading up to his death. Several staff members described electrical disturbances throughout the mansion, with lights flickering and appliances turning on and off without explanation. One maid reported finding Elvis's Bible repeatedly open to the same passage about death and resurrection, despite returning it to its shelf closed each day. There was just a heaviness in the air those last few days, one household employee later stated. Like the house itself knew something was coming. Even the animals were behaving strangely. His dogs would stare at empty corners and growl at nothing. What gives credence to supernatural theories about Elvis's death was his intense interest in numerology and the significance of specific dates. The day of his death, August 16th, held special meaning for Elvis, as he had mentioned to several confidants. It was exactly 1 month before his mother's birthday, with whom he had shared an unusually close bond. Some researchers have noted that in certain mystical traditions, this time period represents a gateway between worlds. More unsettling still were the reports from multiple sources about Elvis's final words. While official accounts vary, several people close to him claimed that his last coherent statement was about crossing over to the other side to join a gathering of souls he could somehow perceive waiting for him. In the decades since his death, Graceland staff and visitors have reported numerous encounters with what they believe is Elvis's spirit. The most common experiences include the smell of his distinctive cologne in empty rooms, the sound of humming coming from his recording room when no one is present, and occasional sightings of a figure resembling Elvis reflected in mirrors throughout the mansion. Paranormal investigators who have conducted authorized research at Graceland have documented unusual electromagnetic fluctuations specifically in Elvis's private spaces, particularly his meditation garden and the bathroom where he died. Electronic voice phenomena (EVP) sessions have reportedly captured what some believe to be Elvis's distinctive voice responding to direct questions. Was Elvis's extraordinary charisma and ability to connect with audiences linked to something beyond natural talent? Did his exploration of spiritual realms somehow contribute to his untimely departure? Like the best of his ballads, the full story of Elvis Presley may contain harmonies we're still trying to hear. Do these celebrity deaths truly connect to supernatural forces, or do we simply need mysteries to help us process the loss of our icons? What happens when the spotlight fades and darkness falls on those who lived in its glare? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere between what we can prove and what we can only sense in that twilight realm where legends truly never die.